Three words, fuck this shit, because I just think such a dick move, but such an Elon move. Hello and welcome, Pudji Gamawara from the Gadigal lands here in Sydney. It's time for Startup 360. I'm Simon Thomsen.
And I'm Majella Campbell.
Great to have your company this week. We did have a little bit of a break last week, but I'm back and
better than ever.
Busting to get our guest in, because we're going to have a great conversation today.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Who are we talking to?
Talking to Ronen Heine, or better known as Ro, who is the founder and CEO of Luna startup studio.
Yeah, which has been helping. Really
like
interesting
an OG.
because he went out of corporate law and sort of the big guys and had this crazy idea 10 years ago to help startups get their ducks in a row when they sort of launch. And he's been doing that with Luna for 10 years now already.
He would have seen so much. I'm very excited to hear all about it.
Well, one of the things I'm excited about talking to him about is masculinity and male leadership, because I know he's got a little bit of a side hustle down at Monash University working on this and talking about how we set things up. And I think we're at an interesting inflection point around the world, how it's unfolded for young men, especially in the era of AI. Which, before I go any further, I'm just going to say Startup 360 is supported by Vante, helping startups unlock market opportunities through automated compliance. But that leads to the Vante banter, which leads to the federal government this week and AI and copyright. Brave move, because I know there's been a lot of lobbyists suddenly jumping on the plane to go down and knock on the communication minister and other doors. But we've seen this fight. Scott Farquhar was leading it as chair of the Tech Council of Australia, saying open slather on copyright and wanted Australia to loosen their laws. Government said, yeah, nah.
No.
So
No from me.
it's going to be interesting to see how all of this continues to unfold, because we're still a long way off final decisions. But at the moment, they're saying thank you, no thank you. But that also leads me to Elon Musk and XAI this week launching Grokpedia, the right-wing nutjob version of Wikipedia. And my favourite part of this is, could it get any more AI than ripping off large slabs of Wikipedia and then just giving it the Musk slant?
There's just no words. There's just no words sometimes. Where is our world heading?
Three words, fuck this shit, because I just think such a dick move, but such an Elon move.
Oh, it's just unsurprising at this point, which is just sad.
And the idea that Wikipedia is some sort of leftist conspiracy, one of the things that I love about what Jimmy Wales has done for nearly 25 years now is it's a community of people who come together, and it's its own kind of peer review in terms of the edits, and it's funny and naughty sometimes, absolutely. But, you know, I'm sorry, Grok and XAI are just Elon trying to bend the world to his own warped vision.
I mean, at least I removed the wiki from that part, because it's definitely not going for it.
Let's just call it Dickipedia, because basically that's what this guy is, a complete and utter dick.
Yeah.
So anyway, go and have a look. My favourite part, of course, is I think the Times had a look into it, and or Time magazine it might have been, and they compared what Wikipedia says about Elon to basically the self-basting pudding that is Elon on Grokpedia, Dickipedia.
Yeah. God.
Scary. Look it up. Maybe I'll try and drop the link in when we put the story up on startupdaily.net. Now, let's go back to some great local news. Enough of the global bastardry.
Yep.
Great news for Hypersonics, the Brisbane startup, which I kind of feel like literally, as well as figuratively, has been flying under the radar. But what an amazing story. They got a $46 million Series A. They're working in the defence space. They're building green hydrogen engines for hypersonic flight. And they've got this deal with NASA. They're talking about Mark 12, which I didn't know you could get to that. So, 12 times the speed of sound.
Yeah.
And that's around about 14,000 kmh. So, kind of quick.
That's insane.
There was
I'm just trying to like picture that in my head. And
satellites go around the world. I think it's something like 26,000 kilometres an hour, but they're in space.
Yeah.
So if you're doing hypersonic flight at that level, and there are pictures of it on Startup Daily, this kind of bullet that they've built, which is about 3.5 metres long, that they're going to be doing these trials with NASA. But it's for surveillance, it's for a whole bunch of things, but rapid response. But it sounds incredible. I wish them all the best on that one.
Yeah,
a really cool story.
Yeah.
Go Queenslanders.
Love it.
And across the Dutch, NZVC, congrats to them.
Yeah.
Their latest fund, they've got another 50 million in Kiwi dollars to invest in startups both here and in New Zealand.
Yeah, up to 60.
Now, NZVC is a really cool story because Mark, who is the founder of it, came to New Zealand in 2021 under an Edmund Hillary Fellowship, having been Entrepreneur of the Year at Princeton University on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list. He already co-founded and exited an edtech company. So he's had incredible success and he decided he wanted to do all this again in New Zealand. So the fund has got 4 areas that they're looking at. And I love the fact that they flipped this. Service as a software, which is AI-related service delivery at software-like margins. The next automation frontier, robotics and automation in the physical world. Human enhancement, which spans longevity, health tech and cognitive augmentation. And geopolitical sovereignty, reshoring, supply chain defence and data sovereignty techs. Sounds like they would have gone into hypersonics had they had the chance early on. But the fund one invested in 53 companies and has done pretty well. And that's only from 2021.
Yeah, wow.
So they're pretty busy. And they've got this Hendrik there as the other general partner who's come out of Europe and has his own incredible experience. I think he's based here. And then his partner, Mark, is over in New Zealand. But they're looking for about 30% of the fund. So let's say 20 companies in Australia and the rest going to New Zealand. So anything exciting been happening in your world this week? I know Spark Festival's been underway, so I would imagine it's been buzzing down there. I did catch up the other week with the team at Stone and Chalk as they celebrated 10 years, and that was a lot of fun.
That was a great event.
Yep.
Big shout out to Chris and the team.
Absolutely.
So much they've done.
Happy anniversary to Stone and Chalk.
Yeah.
Good job.
Here's for the next 10 years.
Yeah. And seeing those faces up on the screen,
the
stories and everyone who's been involved, it is remarkable to think about how far we've come in that time.
It's crazy.
But shall we get our guest in to talk about his 10 years building out Luna?
It's the podcast of the decade.
All right. We'll be right back to meet with Ronen.
Welcome back to Startup 360. We are joined with Ronen Heine. Welcome, Ro.
Hello. Good to be here.
Great to have you in.
Absolutely.
All the way from the moon.
Yeah, from Byron Bay today.
Correct.
How was the flight?
It was wet on that side, wet on this side.
Yeah, exactly. We're having our little
Here we are talking about
Jamaica
the weather.
tribute show on at the moment. But mate, welcome. Tell us a little bit about Luna. 10 years ago, you had this crazy idea after escaping corporate law.
Correct. So this idea for Luna probably went back before corporate law. I was always interested in inventions and discoveries. I started out in science. Fun fact, I actually started out in working on mRNA as a drug therapy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and you're all going, wow, I made the decision that wasn't going anywhere. So...
We've all had
Was that before or after you refused to sign the Beatles?
I was working in a lab and I loved inventions and discovery, but sort of thought how can this is like 20 years away from doing anything. So I went and studied law, corporate lawyer at ABL, Arnold Block Liebler, well-known law firm. I was doing lots of fancy work on the outside, but dead on the inside, probably the experience many corporate lawyers have. I started to get exposure into the early stages of the startup space. This was sort of when Blackbird and SquarePeg were setting up their first funds. Mm-hmm. Our client base were heavily involved in those funds. Young lawyer at this firm at the time, I started to pick up work for startups as side projects. Fell in love, connected me to that sort of invention and discovery itch that I had. So I got hell-bent on working with startups. I had actually started with a Google search. I remember it at the office. where I went back to my office. I'm like, cool, I'm quitting corporate law and I'm going to work with startups. Who's supporting startups? And I couldn't find a single organisation back then, 10 years ago, to work with. And that was basically the seed of Luna. So it started off very much as me, a couple of students, freelancing legal accounting for startups, tech companies, people who were just doing different things. The journey morphed, and 10 years later, we have big presence around Australia. We were recently acquired by Tiger and Bear Partners. In essence, we help founders, scale-ups, venture capital funds, people in the innovation ecosystem, set up, scale, exit through legal and accounting services.
I'm going to go back that decade ago. Do you think anyone took it seriously at that point in time? Do I really need accounting and lawyers? I mean, I'm a skin of the pants kind of guy, and I'm just building this amazing idea. Did anyone take it seriously back then?
Well, it was funny because no one took me seriously. So founders didn't take legal and accounting seriously. And anyone I said, hey, I'm leaving this corporate job to work with startups, no one took that seriously. It was, I used to get made fun of that it was a startup helping startup start up. And
it's kind of catchy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the whole thing was a bit, rogue at the time. So, we used to, a lot of scrappiness about the ecosystem. Not many people had been there, done that. So trying to tell a founder what they might need to do when there's sort of like not much track record here of people advising them, do this, don't do this, do this, don't do this. It was hard to get taken seriously anyway. But I think the thing about working with founders is if you support them early in the journey, as they go along, they remember the people that are supporting them. And the amount of times I caught up with a founder we'd worked with from the start till the end to today, I guess, from the start, and he actually said to me, he's about to exit his company, and he's like, if only we listened to you for those first 5 years.
Yeah.
And he's like, it took him 5 years to realise, to listen, but that's part of the educational journey of being a founder.
That is the moral part of the story, really, in the end, isn't it? It's that bit where you do get to the serious thing. You go into an IPO or an exit, and it's like, and the ducks have to be lined up, and someone says, where's your constitution? It's like, what constitution? All of those moments.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Obviously, so much has changed in the ecosystem from now to then. Has the problems that founders need to solve for in, I guess, the legal and the accounting side changed as well, or is that something that's stayed
So
the same?
from the legal and accounting point of view?
For startups.
Legal and accounting is pretty boring, so it's not...
That's why we got you here, to make it interesting. For the next 30 minutes, it's going to be bloody fascinating.
Yeah. And what tends to happen with legal and accounting, it trails innovation by approximately 5 to 10 years. So, we were working with AI companies 10 years ago. We were working with, blockchain companies many years ago. And then it takes a while for laws, regulations, financial approach, financial systems, financial frameworks to sort of catch up with innovation. So a lot has changed in the industry itself. So there's lots of, so when I started out, when I told the partner at the law firm I was working at that I'm going to work with startups, he said, why are you going to do charity work? And now if you look around, I've been in this building many times to meet with KPMG upstairs, High Growth Ventures, and every single big corporate legal accounting player has a startup or tech division or some sort of impact. And now if you think about AI is just part of every single company, whether big, small, startup or not. So tech is super relevant, and the legal and accounting industries are just sort of trying to chase to be involved, understand how tech businesses are created, how to support innovation and not get in the way of innovation.
I kind of think of the professional services sector a little bit like the Commonwealth Bank when you're a kid, and they would give you your little piggy bank and your Commonwealth Bank passport in the hope that somewhere down the track you would be a Commonwealth Bank customer for mortgages and everything else later on. And I think that finally the sector has figured that out around business. And so you can almost talk about startups as being the kindy part of business. And then somewhere along the way, they grow up and they become adult, and that's when it'd be handy to be around.
Yeah.
It's super important. We do this so much in the early stage space, and we're telling people all the time, get in now, build the relationships. Exactly as you said, it really is, it sticks, that's for sure.
But the other part from a regulatory point of view is I just think look at ESOPs as an example. You know, the employee share plans, how horribly wrong they can go for people if you don't get that right at the beginning.
Yeah, well, when we started Luna, there wasn't a startup concession for ESOPs. So if we think it's messy, not like we sit at round tables now, how can we improve it? It was basically impossible to remunerate or incentivize staff with equity that get taxed up front. It was it cost a fortune in legal and accounting to set up any type of scheme. It was just in the too hard basket. But they're definitely. Yeah, I could talk about legal and accounting all day. What do you want to know?
Oh, yeah.
I want to know.
Oh, it's so exciting.
Can I get some legal advice? Sure. No, I'm interested to know, what is the biggest mistake you see founders make when they're starting up their company that they should have you just see over and over again and you're like, get this sorted?
Yeah, totally. So I think the way we look at it is, so a lot of firms in general, or lawyers and accountants, usually understand bigger business and don't know so much that startup phase, right? I think this might be counterintuitive to what you thought the answer might be, but my advice usually to founders is actually to work out what is the most important little things to get right and get those right, but don't spend too much on setting up legal and accounting infrastructure in the start when you don't know where you're going tomorrow. You don't know where you're going in three months' time. So probably the biggest thing, like if you think about the life cycle of a startup, it starts with a couple of people coming together to jump onto this bold vision, attack a problem, and pivot many times. But the key thing there is this relationship between founders. So for me, the most important thing to get right is that founder relationship, the vesting, the setup, just setting up that founder relationship like any other relationship in life. That's the key. So that's usually the thing that we see breaking down the line. Founders have disputes. They gave too much equity to a CTO who couldn't produce anything, then went to work for a competitor company, can't get funded now. The cap table's a mess. So it's not any sophisticated legal or accounting advice. It's getting founders to sit down, have honest conversations, understand the relationship they're jumping into. So it's a bit more like counseling, I guess, and actually just setting that up right from the start. So that would always be my biggest tip. And that includes investors coming in because they're a third relationship to that. So
startup prenups, basically.
Basically.
Yeah. Well, funnily you should mention investors because that's where I wanted to go. Picking up on what Majella's saying, the thing that they need to know about that, because suddenly you're having term sheets slung at you and it's a little bit overwhelming and flattering at the same time.
It's a crazy ride for a founder. The best ones as well. They're usually really good at product, maybe sales, marketing, getting their product in the hands of customers. And what makes them successful there is that they probably don't have any business experience in the background so that they can innovate. So then when it comes to investors giving capital and money and term sheets and, changing cap tables and these long documents that get presented, we've worked with 16-year-old founders who build incredible technology.
Hello, Liam.
Yeah, so, they can be very young and this is just a lot and often there's a lot of mentors around when a founder's getting money. There's a lot of people who, they get the newspaper article. Once one venture fund's interested, then another one's interested. If Blackbird's investing, then everyone else is sort of there. And the founder gets put in this position where they haven't actually created a business yet, but they're getting a lot coming at them. And, I don't know if you've that mentor whiplash or who to listen to or, who's keeping them straight. And
everyone's going, love you long time.
Exactly. Until they're not.
Yeah.
Absolutely. One common thing I think we see a lot is that not all services are built equally, and that founder or service or startup service alignment is super, super important. I mean, it's not an easy relationship to get right. Startups are notoriously bad customers. They change a lot. They have no money and big growth. What makes a good service provider for a startup, and how can a founder know that they are investing in a good service? And that's going to stand the test of time.
So I think my opinion would be, and this is the way we've approached the early stage at Luna, which is just one sector that we act in, but I think a service for an early stage founder has to come with education as well as the service. So, there's no point delivering an ESOP to a founder that they don't understand, right? they're the ones implementing it. If you put a shareholders agreement together or a financial model for the founder to run, they actually have to understand the financial model or have some basics. So I think if you're a founder out there and you often people say, hey, you know, my aunt or my uncle's a big accountant at a big accounting firm or a big lawyer at a big law firm, and they're giving me free advice, so it's fine. But they're just giving founders things that they can't actually use. And what we see later on down the track is if you're a founder who's invested in your own education, if you like, through the service providers you work with to skill up on financial literacy, legal, just like these bits and pieces that go with running business, when you start to get to Series A, Series B, you know, you're actually set up for success. So, yeah, I actually think education and mentorship alongside the service is key.
That's so great. I totally agree.
So you've gone through your own M&A with Tiger and Bear. What happened in your lawyer lizard brain at that point in time in terms of how you thought about it and dealt with it? Because you've kind of gone from that point of normally advising from the middle to being in the thick of it.
Yeah. Well, if you want to have some fun, sell your business to an M&A group who do that for a professional living. Because they told me that they went really light on due diligence and all the things. And we have this joke and I'm like, well, what was that? Yeah, so from my point of view, I was actually, it was from my lawyer lizard brain, as you call it, it was nice to kind of get back on the tools, because I had sort of drifted away from advice and more gone to CEO and company running and culture building and all that. So it'd been many years since I'd actually looked at a shareholders agreement and like all the things and due diligence and, you know, all our finances and all that bit in terms of getting ready for a sale. And it was a lot of fun and games. Professional service providers are notorious for giving great advice, but it's easier to give the advice than do it yourself, right? And so it was a little bit like that, but it was a wonderful transaction. A lot of fun and games. They played really nice with me, and yeah, it's we're still talking.
So what would you say to other founders if, you know, whether they're an M&A expert or not coming along, someone decides they really like you, they really want you, and they want that partnership?
Yeah, look, it's hopefully you've been set up along the way. And if you have good service providers like Luna or Tiger and Bear, along the way, you'll be set up. And particularly if you've taken on investment and capital from good investors, your structure around, you know, having a board, reporting, you know, like a bit of transparency, all these things should be set up that it's not too hard to do a deal. But sometimes deals present themselves when you don't know or you're not prepared, and you know, the nature of being a founder is not so much, you know, you're not preparing today for 2 years for the exit. Something comes along, happens, you move quickly and you go for it. So I think my overall advice would be, you know, work out the right partners, work out the deal, and you can cover a lot of ground really, really, really quickly.
I mean, that's the thing, because often you're busy building and then suddenly this love bombing turns up. Financial love bombing, because they see opportunity from you.
I would say that is like one of the hardest things when you're doing an M&A deal. Something I found really tricky. I'd seen it with a lot of people advised over the years, but doing the deal whilst running the business at the same time, really, really hard.
2 full-time jobs.
Yeah. And yeah, so that's definitely a bandwidth thing that was way more intensive than I had imagined.
Yeah, I can imagine. Speaking of, I mean, before you spoke a little bit about that transition away from getting off the tools and becoming, you know, more of a leader and a CEO. What's the lessons you've learned along the way about that process, and what makes a good CEO in your opinion?
Oof. Good question. So many lessons. When I think of what makes a good CEO, I think they've got to have passion for what they're doing, passion for the service, passion for the product, passion for their reason for being. I don't think it's a dollars and cents and something that's done behind screens and spreadsheets. That's my personal point of view. They've got to inch that, and that doesn't matter if that can be passion for the culture they're creating, deep passion for the product or service. But I think they have to have that North Star which drives them, because as I've learnt in my journey personally, in a 10-year journey, there's times where my passion fluctuated, and when my passion fluctuated and my energy drifted, or I found myself on projects that I wasn't passionate about, or the business went in certain directions that was just a little bit offline, but it seemed like a great financial opportunity. You know, the numbers made sense, and, you know, well, here's a great hire, but, you know, it's a little bit off center, but, you know, the commercials really stack up. I would just find in my journey that would never work out. And so if you're following your passion, your drive, your reason for being, I think that's probably number one. And then probably the biggest thing I learned is, my areas of strength, the areas my passion and purpose areas, the areas I love doing, and surrounding myself by people who really complement that. So, you know, if I'm a CEO, and this doesn't, you know, people often ask me, particularly founders, is it better to be an executor or a creative, or, you know, what's better? And I think the best thing is a bit of self-awareness, know your areas of strength, know the areas you just crush it in, try and spend as much time in those areas, and build a team around you to execute on the others. So that's, probably the second lesson.
In that context, Ray, I want to ask you where the customer sits, because I think that's a real issue when you're in the C-suite and you end up separated from the end user.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest mistakes I made as well along the way, where I just drifted away and found myself, and loving building a team and having, you know, we have thousands of clients, and in the early days, you know, every single client or customer, because they somehow come into your world, they somehow come into the world. And then as you get bigger, you know, Luna at its biggest probably had about a team of 40 people and literally thousands of customers. There's no way, you know, Majella and I just said, hey, our companies have been working with each other, but the two of us as CEOs have never met each other.
It's crazy.
And I think systems for actually like maintaining that connection is so important. So, at Luna, for example, I drifted so much from the client base that I couldn't get feedback readily. You couldn't get insights. You couldn't grow relationships. And then we built a system where clients, you know, there's an internal system for poking when I would need to meet someone, or someone else in the executive should meet this customer just because they're good, bad, ugly, or like, you know, there's various triggers, and that was transformational.
I want to dive into that just with a little bit more detail, because I reckon that's a really important thing for founders as their business grows.
Yeah.
When you say the triggers and the pokes and all of that, what are we talking about?
Yeah. So for us, a few triggers. As a CEO, you don't want to get into the bias of thinking you're so amazing. So if you only talk to your happiest customers, you're gonna start to think you're pretty good. So the triggers for us would be if we lose a customer. You know, particularly a certain type of customer. So if we internally at Luna, if there's a venture-funded business, which is like our core customer, ideal, and for some reason they went to another service provider or whatever, that would be a trigger to make contact, do an intro with me. I'd reach out, or one of the senior leaders would just reach out just to say, hi, what happened? You know, no, just get learning. And then on the other opposite end of the spectrum is we have ideal customer profiles. We have an internal system when we track new pieces of work. Our team tags the client as 1, 2, or 3 based on these profiles. That means something to us. Anyone in the organization, particularly the leaders, can see, oh, great, we've just landed, you know, this type of client. They fit this prototype. That's a reach out moment. So,
Cool.
That's great. I'm interested to know, I mean, with the acquisition, the love story behind Tiger and Bear and Luna, and what's the big vision of coming together?
A love story. I think we need some violins. Matt, can you put some violins into this part of the conversation, please?
Yeah. Well, Alex, I do love you. He's the CEO of Tiger and Bear out there. It happened quite organically. I guess at the start of the year, I wasn't looking for, or Luna wasn't necessarily looking for an exit or a merger, but we were definitely looking to partner with another group, come together. My personal circumstances have changed a little bit, and you know, we're looking to put a new partner in, or bring some fresh energy, a CEO or something into the company. And with that process, you sort of went out there, and we got match made. So I went to one group over here, and they said, sounds like what you're talking about is what Alex from Tiger and Bear is talking about. And we got to know each other. So it started with us having a conversation, getting to know each other, realizing that we are skiers, not snowboarders. And so we both said if we were snowboarders, then that wouldn't...
It's a major red flag.
Yeah, it's a major red flag. But it starts like that, you know, it starts off with, you know, the people behind the business. The rest sort of took care of itself. And if we go to how it makes sense, so Luna's very much a Melbourne-centric business of sorts. That's where our roots are. Our team started in Melbourne. Tiger Bear's very Sydney-based, so we were both always looking for a bit more of on-the-ground support in those two regions. So that made sense from a team point of view. And then the value proposition for us was we do great work, legal and accounting services for startups, scale-ups and VCs, starting business, scaling up. And we you know, what happens on exit. They do great work on exit, but don't do so much the day-to-day support. Bringing those two things together, we can now help founders, tech companies start, scale, sell, and raise capital along the way. And if you pull that all together, you know, it's a pretty interesting value proposition, and I think it's pretty exciting for us, but also the industry at large.
All right, I'm going to veer off down your other passion path, male leadership and the state of play for young men, because I know you've been heavily involved in this. I've been thinking about it a lot too. I've got a 20-year-old son who I'm incredibly proud of as a young man, but I know it's tough, and I listen to what Professor Scott Galloway's been saying. He's just written a book called Notes on Being a Man. Give me the road take on how you see the state of play, because you're up in Byron, and I know there are plenty of places where you can go up, cover yourself in mud, run around in nude and howl at the moon, you know, and that helps fathers and sons bond and a bunch of other things. But it's a complex relationship now. One of the things that struck me, especially with the AI and synthetic relationship thing that's happening now, is I think it's a point that Galloway makes where something like 45% of men aged between 18 to 25 have never approached a woman in person, which kind of like half of men aged between 18 and 25 have never approached a woman in person. I find that terrifying.
Yeah.
Is that that's a recent, like, over the last...
Yeah.
Crazy.
That's horrifying.
So in that state of play, and there's a lot, it's complex now. And, you know, and I thought we were quite progressive when I was a young man, but that was last century, and the world has changed dramatically yet again.
Totally. So I hadn't heard that stat, but it doesn't surprise me. It's maybe even how I got into this work. So through Luna, we've got a partnership with Monash University where we build and run a number of their entrepreneurship courses for undergraduate students. So for the past 5 years, I've been sitting in lecture theatres, lecturing, and you know, we have like, I think 90 to 150 students each semester, and you get to see a fair bit. And I was really struck by, you know, how students, particularly male students, like, you know, 18 to sort of 23, like the way they would be sitting in these classes, like shriveled, like just kind of a bit scared. It sounds weird, but it's in line with what you're talking about. There's this, I think young men are struggling to find place in the world. And for very good reason, the men have had to take a good hard look in themselves and the world that's been created under sort of male leadership in many respects. But on the path there, I think men, and particularly young men, are quite lost. If you start to throw in the stat you just said, there's also some stats around, you know, you would have seen the explosion in UFC, for example.
Yes.
Yeah, which is a very outward, big, strong. And so that's covering a hole in something else.
And the whole Andrew Tate thing.
Exactly, Andrew Tate. There's this trend around being big and buff, and you know, actually, there's a lot of Western young men that are now converting to very patriarchal religions, and so there just paints this state of play for young men that you know, the place in the world is a bit lost. So I went on a bit of a journey with this stuff. Scott Galloway is incredible, and I started to do some self-reflection on what I'm like as a male leader in the world, and sent me down on a path where I've been doing some work with a guy called John Wineland in the US, and his teachings in wisdom is all about embodied men's leadership. So how to harness the masculine for good in the world, right? And not the shame around being too masculine, but like how to unlock the masculine to play its core role in the world in a really healthy world. So I could go really deep on this, but
I do want to spend some time doing this because, as you know, the startup sector has had its issues in recent years.
Yeah.
There is I think we're struggling with the conversation between men and women in startups, let alone broader society, and no one's quite clear. I mean, there are certainly some great women taking initiative on this front, but we're seeing behaviours that repeat. We're seeing problems from some people who are incredibly successful in leadership roles that are just completely out of bounds.
Yeah.
And when young men are looking for role models, I think it creates a bunch of challenges. So creating that ethical framework about the idea of masculinity, and then being able to have a conversation across genders and everyone in the middle as well, I think is a really important thing. So please, Ro, have a crack.
So I think I'll talk from the male lens, and particularly on the masculinity and how to cultivate that. I think men in general and young men in particular, there's a bit of shame around, right? So you've got to be perfect, or you've got to be this way or that way. And so there's no outlet for clearing things, right? And if you don't clear things, weird behaviours start to happen in totally different ways.
Because there's a terror in there.
There's a terror in there, and then there's an overcompensation. That might be in the workplace, that might be at home, that might be with, culturally what you're into. And so I think if we can help men express themselves in a way that it's safe to express all sorts of stuff, and having that from an early age, that ability to express, understand who you are and be comfortable with who you are and have outlets is super important. So I don't have the solve, but I can definitely see how this dance between masculine and feminine, it's just not things that like we're taught be this way or be that way. On the flip side, in the female world, there's this juggle to sort of do business in a certain way, be business in a certain way, when at its essence, the feminine is very different to the masculine, and the feminine can create incredible things. Why not harness those things and empower those things to fly instead of trying to do it in this way? And then the same with the masculine or young men, harnessing what they have as opposed to, no, you need to be like this. You need to be like this. So I think it starts from talking, gathering, making, young boys, giving a purpose. Men thrive off purpose. And
we're task-focused.
Exactly. Task-focused, but a deep purpose and a connection to something, which I think is really missing with young people.
It's so true. It's so important, I think, as well, when we look at the wider picture of diversity or anything like that, or genders in general. Like, you can't separate the two. Like, those conversations need to come as one. It's not about one or the other. It's so important to bring them both together because it's a system at the end of the day. You're going to have, if you focus on one, you're going to have the polar opposite of the other, and it's going to create, it's just systems thinking at the end of the day when you really look at approaching a problem.
And the other part, which I find interesting, it goes back to conversation more broadly, and it's something where social media often doesn't help because, and I've been guilty of it too, we all feel like we can tee off, without consequence on a social media platform and not think about the people on the receiving end of it. And what you'd say to someone's face is very different to what you might say on a platform. And going back to the conversation about young men not talking to women, we're kind of losing that personal interaction skills that we all used to have because we're able to mediate it now, and now we're in a space where you can build your perfect avatar and have it off with that, which is just so beyond fucking weird. I'm sorry.
It's so scary these days as well, I think, when we're in this content absorption that we have. I mean, we're just being fed ideas all day, every day. We kind of lose that idea to also critically think about things and bring in those things like empathy, where you're getting fed things, and that's really scary. And it's talking to shame as well, I think, like that sense of feeling with that. Shame is one of the most, don't want to quote this as a statistic, but I know that there's research out there, but shame is one of the biggest indicators of suicide as well, of suicidal behavior. If somebody has suicidal, it's almost 100% of the time it's because they're experiencing high levels of shame. So being able to reduce that is also such an important issue in the global. I mean, we know that males' rates of suicide is also increasing.
4 times higher than women. 12 times more likely to be incarcerated, 3 times more likely to overdose.
Yeah.
So, there's a whole lot of stuff going on there that puts men outside of this spectrum. And let's go to the other part of it, because let's say that everyone has good intentions and everyone wants to do the right thing. I kind of think that going back to the conversation idea, it's really tough for young men right now to figure out what the right thing to do is and how to have that conversation in a way that they learn and it's respectful for all, because some of it is quite tough. It's like every time someone yells, "Guys, do better."
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like I can say that because I'm yelling at my team. I wouldn't turn around and say that to the opposite sex.
Yeah.
It's kind of I'm just interested in sort of the communication that you're having with young men and how we can sort of encourage and engage them in a way that does make them better human beings and brings the skills and empathy and understanding that perhaps they're not getting when stuck in an algorithmic rabbit hole.
Well, I mean, the key is being able to relate to another human, because if you can relate to another human, by intuition and by design, we are supportive and nourishing, and we come together. The distance that I think happens online in particular makes it far worse, because there's a disconnection from the other, right? There's you're this side or you're that side, and this binary, like you're this or you're that, is so prevalent.
And if you ship me, I can just hit block.
Exactly, right? It's not there. So I think, as we go through life, we're born with intuition. We don't need to be told what's, don't be a dick, don't.
We do. We bloody do.
We do. But, like a 30-year-old should.
But we rationalize it and we think we're doing the right thing.
Exactly
in those
right.
situations.
And so I think role models play a huge part here, particularly for young men. Role models that they can see working really well with women in the workforce in a really healthy, dynamic way. Like, role models who are helping men discover purpose and reason for being, and, having conversations and, digesting their shit, so to speak, and being able to be okay with, and letting that flow, I think is very different to, you say the Andrew Tates of the world or the like, but how many role models do you see out there who, talk about their feelings or talk about the, the dance, the differences between being male and female, because, we try everyone the same, but it's different. It's so different, and so I think role modeling plays a key. And I think the moment young men look around and I don't know who their role models are.
So in that context, I mean, if it's not a footy player or a front man in a band or whomever, what would your advice be to, let's say, startup founders in their 30s and in their 40s, so they set the right example and tone to younger founders coming through?
Yeah, 100%. Well, I think it starts with them working on themselves, right? Like, if you're a founder in your 40s and you don't have awareness yourself, there's sort of, get to work, like you're going to have young people who are going to look up to you. You're going to have young people who are going to follow you. People are going to join you. This is going to be their first place of work. Your influence on them is far bigger than you think. The interactions they see. If there's a male founder who even says, hey, you know what, let's think about gender diversity on our board. So such a small thing to say, and the impacts like that ripples out in different ways to different things, stopping and hiring process to think about, is this the right process or not? Are we having a bias somewhere or not? These little things in organizations have huge ripples in different ways. And I've made I've lent into this, but also made the mistakes and seen how it can have differing effects. So I think as startup founders, I don't think it's about, and again, my view is in the world we're told, do this, do this, do this. But I think there's a personal work point of view, and you got to have awareness, do a work, like get out of your comfort zone to understand your personality type, deal with your trauma, because your trauma comes out in different ways. And I think that's a responsibility on any leader to make sure that they're not, instead of dealing with their own stuff, putting it onto either their business, their people at work, or, future business people.
100%.
I love that. So for founders who are willing to go on that journey and take those steps, what steps are they? How can they get more in touch with that side of themselves and understand, I guess, build that self-awareness? Is there anything that that might help?
Yeah, well, I think this is one of the areas that I think there's great support around. So, if you think about all the breath work, alternative styles of therapy, leadership training, there's lots of these outlets now that probably didn't exist a while ago. And I'm not saying any one of these things will solve, but, the non-linear, another management course at Harvard, that's not going to, not there. I'm talking to the right, something that's more on your personal essence. There's wonderful executive coaches that kind of mix the building a business whilst building the person behind the business and working in those two things together. So I think my journey to this world sort of started with a great exec coach. I had an exec coach. I went there because I wanted the numbers of the business to go up and I wanted to be a better business person. Anyway, he was really inspired by Buddhist teachings, and we worked on the business, but also worked on me as a male leader. And I just felt better, and life started to go better, and relationship, business, and the like. They all started to go better. So I think that's a pretty easy start if you're only talking to your board and your people and your ex people you used to work with. Do you have a coach out there who's working on you as the business leader, but also you as the human? Because once you start working on yourself and you start understanding and processing, then there's all the things out there, and you can just go deeper and deeper and unlock and unlock and unlock.
Couldn't agree more.
You can get better at Excel spreadsheets, but it doesn't necessarily make you a better human being.
Exactly.
No, I feel like it's so true. As someone who has, I go to therapy and I have a business coach for both of those things. And it's the most incredible thing, because you just get asked the questions that you don't ask yourself, or you don't think about that.
Yeah.
And it's a whole different perspective. It's massive.
Or the ones you like to put to one side and think, I'll
I'll
get around to dealing with that
Put
later.
in a box and just seal that one up and not think about
right?
that.
Yeah.
It's something that you just can't get anywhere else. It makes a big difference.
I want to finish on this, Ro. You live up in Byron Bay.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to live up there for quite a few years, and it does have a certain magic. And I always just think on the ridgeline run between Byron and Lismore, as you look out over that whole incredible area around Wollumben, there's something special. What do you love about living up there?
Oh, I love everything. I couldn't be more of an advocate for living there. I guess we fell into living there, so we moved there at the start of COVID. My wife and I both run businesses that are based in Melbourne. We thought we were going there for a 6-month remote working holiday. 5 years later, we're still there. And I think the thing that surprised me was it's this intersection of a great lifestyle. You see the horizon. I jump in the ocean most days. It's amazing what
Dolphins drop by.
The dolphins drop by. There's whales, there's turtles. But it's also, when you're running a business, it's pretty amazing what can't be solved with just seeing a horizon. Seeing the lighthouse or seeing a beach, and so it's an incredible place. I feel very privileged to work there, but it's also this intersection of a small town mixed with people who are trying to solve big problems in the world, different things, different approaches. And when you have all these different approaches and people who are trying to, live better, do better, create better, it makes for a very inspiring place to live, grow a family, and be based. So I love all the things, from the beaches to the quirky personalities and the incredible sort of people and talent that's there as well.
It is a pretty seductive place for its lifestyle. And as we saw with the Tech Council CEO, Damien, he's got his young family up there. he's decided to spend a little bit more time there rather than on planes. I completely get
Yeah.
that. Ro, thanks for joining us from Luna. Great to have you on the show.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Well, weekend coming up. I'm hoping the rain is going to stop soon
think it
and
is.
clear up. It's the final round of the AFL. Unfortunately, not a home game, but last weekend the Swans women did wonderfully against Carlton. So we're still in a chance to make the finals. But what are you up to?
I'm heading to Melbourne. I'm going.
Oh, it's the horses.
I am, yeah.
The horses are on the
One
track.
of our startups has, or alumni has got some. They're doing the whole wayfinding and tech behind that. So I'm going to go check that out, which would be really fun. And then I'm going to go do some business up there as well. Have a little scout around the ecosystem.
Well, have a great time.
What
Let's
about
spend
you?
a bit of time down there. It's a wonderful city. But that is all we have time for on today's show. This is a Smart Co Media production, produced and edited by the fabulous working dad, Matt Jackson. Thanks, mate. Thanks to Ella Walsh, James Vass, and Vanta for their support. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. And of course, read startupdaily.net. Sign up for our free newsletter. And of course, it's all free. We give it away for free. We must come up with a better business model one of these days. But in the meantime, you have a great weekend. We'll see you next Friday. Bye for now.